Gandalf the White, Gandalf the Poo-Poo Head. Hey kids, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, hoping that you are having a great day. And in today's video, we're going to be sitting back, relaxing, and having a look into the world of dead TCGs as we examine one of the strangest card games I've ever seen. And today, we're taking a look at this bad boy. This is Hecatomb, the highly experimental TCG produced by Wizards of the Coast back in 2005, I want to say. I remember it was released at Gen Con, and that Mike Elliott was pretty heavily involved in its production. And for those of you who don't know, Mike Elliott was a rather storied game developer for Wizards at the time. But we're not here to talk about Mike Elliott. Today we're here to talk about Hecatomb, which is one of, if not the most bizarre TCG in terms of core design that I've ever seen. And before we get into the cards themselves, let's just talk about the general premise. Unlike Magic the Gathering, where you are taking the role of a planeswalker traveling between worlds, looking to gather mana and cast spells and compete against other planeswalkers, in Hecatomb, you are taking the role of an Endbringer, a servant of one of several evil gods, and your goal in the game is to harvest souls in competition against other Endbringers so that you may usher in the end of the world on behalf of your god of choice. And yeah, that's a pretty crazy premise for a TCG. It's a kind of grim and evil game where instead of, playing a potentially neutral role as a planeswalker or even a heroic role in one of the other card games or even a fun role like a Pokemon trainer in Pokemon. No, you're actually like the bad guy here. It's pretty dreary, and the overall aesthetics of the game reflect that very well. But what strikes me as odd is not the core gameplay or even the premise, because those are a bit different than usual. The core gameplay is not too complicated, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But what is very odd for this card game are the cards themselves. Before we get into that, let me show you what a lot of people would consider one of the stranger card designs. This is Heresy, and Heresy cards are strange because, as you might be able to tell, they're a bit taller than usual trading cards. Okay, that makes getting sleeves for these kind of difficult. Hecatomb cards, meanwhile, and yes, this is an actual little set of them. This is the 40 card set. Hecatomb cards are not traditional card shaped. They're little hexes. I think they're 5-sided though. You might have also noticed that they're plastic. Oh, it's a smell. These have a smell to them. So let's whip these bad boys out. This is a standard Hecatomb card. You might have noticed it has a clear, little clear edge. You can see through it. And there's a reason for that. Part of this game is, let me make sure that's a relic. Let me get 2 actual minions. There we go. Part of this game's core mechanics is that you actually take one card, and as you get through the game, your minions combine together to create abominations with the combined powers of all the minions underneath them. And that's actually forms the core rules of this game, where instead of in Magic the Gathering, for instance, you would send off one monster at a time and you'd send it off to fight against your opponent's summoned creatures. In here, you stack your minions on top of one another, creating one singular monstrosity to overwhelm your opponent's defenses. And yeah, some of the art here that's pretty freaky looking art, right? Crazy skull demon thing. Now, I'm not even going to leave it ambiguous as to why this might have failed. If you can't tell, look at Heresy. Getting a card sleeve for this and shuffling this up might be a bit difficult. Getting a card sleeve for this? Basically impossible, right? I don't think I've ever seen a card sleeve that would accommodate Hecatomb. Oh, it's kind of sticky. I don't know if I like that. What a bizarre, strange card game. But if you're into that dark aesthetic, this is a card game that is perfectly suited to those people with a more macabre sensibility and more, I don't want to call it gothic, because it doesn't just pull on gothic aesthetics, but those who have an interest in the macabre. Yeah, it's a pretty fun, pretty dark card game. Let's get into how it's played. Hecatomb is a game where you compete against your opponent to gain a total of 20 souls, instead of trying to reduce your opponent's souls to 0. When the game begins, each player has a 40-card deck, as well as starting with 5 souls. There are 4 basic types of cards: the minions, which are your basic summoned creatures; fates, which can include invocations, curses, and tactics, which are kind of synonymous or analogous to spells from Magic the Gathering, instants, and sorceries. There are relics, which are like artifacts that they stay in play, and gods, which are very powerful cards that have one-time effects as well as continuous effects. Each of these cards falls into one of 4 dooms card types: corruption, deceit, destruction, and greed, each one having their own focus, with corruption being the power of madness, deformity, and greed, for instance, being the power of wealth and unholy desire. When your turn begins, you gain 1 soul, untap your cards, and draw 2 cards, not 1, which is pretty interesting. Then, during your main phase, you can add 1 mana card, and interestingly, in Hecatomb, any card can be a mana card. You can only do this once a turn, though. You can then play cards and attack your opponent until you have run out of resources or untapped abominations to do so. Interestingly, minions that you play from your hand, as long as they are just 1 minion stacks, can't actually attack or block. Minions on their own are worthless. Instead, you stack minions on top of one another as you play them. A stack of minions can be up to 5, if I recall correctly, and these are the powerhouses. These monstrous abominations are what you attack with. These abominations are how combat is settled in this game. A stack of minions, an abomination, goes toe-to-toe with your opponent's abominations, and as damage is dealt, it scales down in a very interesting way. You see, all abominations have a total strength score, determined by the combined total strength of the cards that form them, and if 1 minion, for instance, is dealt 5 damage and it has 6 total strength, it'll only destroy 5 damage worth of cards off the top. When you choose to tap your abomination to attack your opponent has the chance to block it with their own abomination, and any abominations that don't get blocked get the ability to reap souls from your opponent. 1 soul for each card on the abomination stack. Forgot to mention, a card's cost is right here, and if this card, for instance, say it needs 3 green, what it means is it needs at least 3 mana, one of which must be green. And interesting basic rules aside, it's not hard to see why Hecatomb didn't really stick around for all that long. This is a very odd game. Cool aesthetics aside, it's very unlikely that whatever fans Hecatomb had were enough to offset the cost of production. After all, these are plastic cards, which I'm willing to bet were more expensive to produce than the cardboard cards that Wizards of the Coast was used to working with. And honestly, I'm going to give you guys my full unbiased opinion here. This is definitely one of the strangest card games, because this is going to be hard to play with from a transport mindset. I can't imagine there being any good sleeves or a deck box or what have you that would make transporting this to locals or to tournaments or whatever a very convenient thing. So obviously there's the convenience aspect of it, there's the production aspect of it, and then there's the fact that it really is just kind of a strange, almost Magic adjacent game, because it plays a bit similar to Magic. You're spending mana to summon creatures and slam those into your opponents. A lot of the relics and fates, those are pretty synonymous with what Magic already has going on with artifacts and instants, for instance. And overall, it really is. Playing this, it really does feel like playing Magic Light. And, if there's one good thing that comes out of this, I feel like Hecatomb as a whole, the core mechanics, the abomination creation mechanic of this card game, I feel like this is a bit of a prelude to what we saw in Ikoria with the mutate mechanic for a lot of the non-human creatures of that set, where you stack them on top of each other to get bigger and more powerful monsters. Overall, if I were to grade Hecatomb, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I like the aesthetics. I do like me some good horror creep show aesthetics. But it does have some problems, namely, look, I cannot stress this enough. This card shape is not great. Plastic cards are not great to play with, and they don't shuffle well, they don't transport well. Overall, like, I get the feeling that if this had been redesigned as a standard cardboard TCG, it probably would have stuck around a bit longer than it did, all things considered. I like the aesthetics. I like the core rules even, and I like getting some games in. But that doesn't clearly offset the problems it had in terms of popularity and production, so it's not hard to see why Wizards canned it. At the end of the day, I think Hecatomb is a fine and pretty ambitious card game, all things considered. Magic the Gathering given a dark twist. I'm not particularly shocked or surprised to see it dead and buried. I don't think it's something that had a lot of growth potential as a card game, and I'm not exactly pining for more of it, you know? But I do think it's pretty fun to play once or twice with some friends if you can get a hold of some of it. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.